It's Doomsday! Jubilate and rejoice, ye ill-reckoned faithful. Delight, rend exultation, and hallelujah unto the skies once more pregnant with sulphur and calamitous storm. Unto the earth beneath your feet that belches raw odysseys of boundless slaughter and gibbitude with each sodden step. I, the Fragnostic, am both your humble guide and vainglorious emissary of destruction. And I return Doomsday to you with nothing short of a spectacle of blood and havoc, a demonic holocaust like none you have ever dared dream to witness. For tonight, we consummate the unholy marriage of two of Doomsday's most demanded opponents. First, the unrivaled savagery of Doom 2's Grim Reaper of a sequel, the soul-crushing terror beast men tremble to call Final Doom, and its first episode TNT EVILUTIon. But why merely tangle with the tiger when you can grind its face into a sand dune of cocaine and set its fucking testicles on fire? Why merely settle for extremely fucking difficult when we can bump the challenge up to absolute fucking insanity with the Doom mod you wanted, the Doom mod you needed to see stand against my fury? The Crimson Typhoon that renders once dawdling hellspawn into lightning-limbed ravenous titans. Brutal Doom, given ample advantage to slay me in my tracks here with its even more ferocious upgrade, Project Brutality. This, lovelies, will be a death match for the ages, and I refuse to keep it from you a moment longer. Project Brutality offers us a wide range of difficulties, as you can see here, from the dishonorable ease of power fantasy right the way through to the comical impossibility of Last Man on Earth. Now, believe me when I say this, Final Doom is unfinishable on the top two skill settings. Doom and Doom 2 are doable, but certain level design choices are at odds with a lot of the changes that Brutal Doom and its add-on make to the core gameplay. I will explain this and indeed everything else about EVILUTIon and the mod on our long and difficult journey, but for now, our choice sits between Man and a Half, which is essentially ultra-violence difficulty on elephant steroids with added enemy aggression, damage and proficiency, or 12 on 10 point scale of bad, which ramps up their speed instead. Now, I personally find more overall challenge in the former. I'll save any explanations or technical commentary for the second map. It's best to just spend a minute or two letting Project Brutality wash over you, because if you've never seen it in action before, the changes can be somewhat overwhelming. Howdy boys! Top of the ceiling to you. Keep your eyes on the fucking ground when your betters approach you. They're happy to see me back. Can't you tell, lovelies? Can't you tell? You wait right there, Pinky. Deserters drown in blood. Get out of it, you minge-collared turd. How about strolling the gardens? And a magic trick. Nothing up the sleeves, nothing up the sleeves. Abracadabra! Fuck yourself! Oh, what? How'd that miss you, you fuck? That was some Pulp Fiction Will of the Lord shit right there. It's alright, I'm not confused. You have to stand in the blue key doorway and then quickly turn around to get out of here. I think this is the longest part of the map between murdering something. I'm getting itchy. I'm getting itchy! Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be sure to kill something with it right away. Not you, shitface. Get the fuck out of my way. Party in the basement? Why no invite for fraggers? You know, hell must be running some sort of assisted suicide program to keep sending you poor bastards up here to me. There you go. The bill's in the post. Ah, nice and warmed up now, Crusaders. Seems like it's been forever, don't it? No time to dally though. We got an invitation to a human barbecue right here, and a true knight of our blessed order always remembers his manners, doesn't he? You fucks. So, at this point, those of you with only a limited knowledge of the madness that Brutal Doom brings must be thinking, what in the streaking monkey slaves of Christ is happening here? It is a brachiosaurian cockslap to the senses, is it not, lovelies? Cheney! Oh, my most rusted trusty friend. You must be thirsty. Drink, Cheney. Lord Fraggers brings the floods for thee. Yes, indeed, much has changed in the world of Doom since Brutal Doom's arrival, and even more so since the dark birth of Project Brutality. The higher difficulty should demand that we're far more careful in our approach to huge caverns of demon scum like this one, but what's the first rule of Doomsday Crusaders? Don't play like a fucking pussy. Hello boys, come and play. But the startling new aggression, speed and accuracy of our foes here does demand the occasional tactical use of cover while we push our offensive, making good use here of a choking point where we can mulch the bastards with chain gun fire, while, of course, inviting them to clumsily eat their own attacks and turn on each other, thinning out the lower league chattel to give ourselves an easier time with the rear flank of chain gunners and hell barons out here. That looks to have taken the majority of the fight out of their ranks. Let's just have ourselves a mop up now. We're going to smash Final Doom with a UV Max run right here. For the uninitiated, UV Max means Ultra Violence Maximum. That's every monster dead, every secret torn open. Items, we take what we need. Item hunting slows us down, and there is no reward in Valhalla for slovenly slaughter. All done traditionally on the ultra violent skill setting, although we've gone a step beyond here with man and a half difficulty. Now, all of the changes that Project Brutality makes to the base game are fully customizable, so I have made a couple of small tweaks to fit my playstyle. Soul Spheres, like the one we just grabbed there, are usually replaced by a very major and very interesting mechanic change, in that they're substituted by captured Marines who follow you around, gunning down your enemies right alongside you. Unfortunately, the AI on them is absolutely fucking awful. They will think nothing of launching rockets or throwing grenades in your general direction if there's a demon standing right next to you, especially in narrow corridors. And the amount of times I've played Brutal Doom and had a run go down in flames because some cock-brained retard I made the mistake of rescuing tried to blow up an imp with a rocket launcher from across the map and ended up taking one of my fucking legs off instead is too great a sum and I'm prepared to trust them with, so I generally elect to keep the Soul Spheres where they are. There's a bunch of other little pokes and tweaks I've decided not to run with here. Crosshairs, aim assist, just a few training wheels I don't really need. To be honest, I meant to swap out the HUD for something more minimalist as well, but completely forgot about it until now, so I'll sort that out in time for the next episode. You can have what looks like a proper marine visor with discoloration, FOV warping and everything, but I like to keep it simple. I don't want the rewards of my rampages filtered through too many fancy effects here. Likewise, the additional HD textures I'm running here are just enough to keep the original maps recognisable while complementing the new projectile and gore effects that Brutal Doom bestows upon us. You can seriously give this game a full-on survival horror makeover with some of the reskin packs available, and they're more than worthy of a playthrough, but it's a bit of a leap too far for a first time run. Surprise! You can see even in these early maps that their monster counts mean business, intended to swamp and overwhelm the average player. But we are no average players, are we lovelies? We are men and a fucking half. Power control. Say your fucking prayers, you pig. Now, before we start talking about Project Brutality and indeed Brutal Doom in any kind of real depth, I think it'd be narratively proper to tell you a little about Final Doom itself, because its commission and development alone are incredibly interesting without even going into the many clever quirks of its map designs. There is a reason that this was far better received critically than Doom 2. Hell, besides the original, this is probably the best received Doom title ever released, and it didn't change a damn thing from the vanilla Doom 2, no new weapons or features at all here. It just constructed its stages with a bit of purpose and overwhelmingly vicious difficulty. Yes, believe it or not, lovelies, there was a time when games journalists genuinely relished difficulty and challenge in the titles they reviewed. There was an age, a long time ago, when I was but a tiny fragling learning the ways of the Crusades, swinging my first greatsword, interrogating my first heretic with divine magics and means, where if it took you longer than a couple of minutes to pass a tutorial on a basic build side-scroller, you would be fired on the spot, maybe even killed. Right there, shot straight in the fucking head for obviously being some sort of industry spy, or just an imbecile too stupid to be allowed to live. It was a kindness, a mercy. The times have changed, Crusaders. but we must steadfastly refuse to change with them. I'll just sidestep that final Doom history lesson for a second here to point out that this is maybe the first map of Evolution where you'll be able to see why I picked the man and a half skill setting instead of the two more extreme ranks at the top of the ladder. We're only on the 3rd level here. This is absolutely nothing compared to the terrible trials that lie ahead. But already we can confirm that, which I dare say you could have figured out on your own. An element of Final Doom's difficulty lies in the utterly overwhelming demonic population that roam each and every area, every square inch of every fucking map. I mean, here we are, map 3. And this only has a couple less monsters in it than the second to final stage from Doom 2, the Living End. I'm doing pretty well so far here. Health and armor are good. Ammo is, well, the vanilla HUD fucks the ammo count up in Project Brutality, so that's another reason I'll switch out to a custom one for the next episode, but we're well armed for now, no question. Believe you me, that will change before we even hit the halfway point of Evolution. There are points in Final Doom where you are just straight up ambushed by dozens of pissed off hell monkeys at a time, and man and a half ramps their aggression up beyond what it was ever supposed to be anyway. If we dared set foot in I Am the Painkiller or Last Man on Earth difficulty, we'd lose so much health so quickly in these scenarios that it would come down to literally having to lurk around doorways taking pot shots at the fuckers. Every map would take about half an hour to finish. It'd take us about 3 fucking years worth of Doomsday installments to ever get through this, and that's just not my play style. I like to sprint around, shotgun in hand. What the fuck? I turned you off! What? Alrighty, well, I guess you get to see the captured Marines after all. That's fine, Zed Doom. Just ignore what I tell you to do. That works for everybody, obviously. Jesus Christ. You have to give the Marines their credit here, I guess. They have the potential to be massively useful, and when they work or you get a couple of them running around with you together, it's extremely satisfying to charge in and clear out a room together, but like I say, this now complicates matters with something of a risk factor because they have a horrifying tendency to either fuck you backwards with grenades or just dart straight in front of you while you're trying to line up a rocket shot or a flamer shot or 100 other things that could wipe you out nearly instantly with splash damage on this difficulty, but fuck it, alright, we'll deal with it. No fucking choice now, have I? Did you catch that horned imp right there? One of the many new enemy variations that Project Brutality grants you through its dynamics. Oh, hey. See, I've got my own little gang now. Put these puppies down, boys. They're too sick to live. You can't take them with you between levels, unfortunately. As much as I'd love to roam around the game with about 20 of them at my back. As quickly as their grenade-happy hijinks would blow me from the face of the fucking earth. Into the wormhole! The awesome thing about the design aesthetic for a ton of these stages in Evolution is that they're all built around one kind of central gimmick or specific concept, so it feels much more definitive and engaging than a lot of the aimless, tedious wandering that made up the whole middle section of Doom 2. System control and human barbecue are just kind of there to ease you in more than anything, even though system control hits you early with a couple of tricks usually reserved for secret areas in the franchise, like the floor tile activated door to the rear switch. But back in power control, you saw that the whole map was essentially a more elaborate O of destruction from Doom 2. It just drowns the player in an insane queue of monsters and removes the safe spaces in the courtyard. Really one of the first times in the series that you're forced to come up with anything resembling elaborate battle tactics to control the areas and give yourself some breathing space. Here in Wormhole, the hook's more subtle, slightly more unsettling in terms of gameplay and plot. Yes, both Evolution and the Plutonia experiment have plots that elevate them above the countless other custom map shovelware bundles released in Doom's wake. Admittedly, sketchy plots, but you know, who needs them? Didn't games get worse on the whole when we started adding things like complicated storylines? I think so. I think there's an argument for that. Very rarely you get a game with a worthwhile plot, don't you? Very rarely you play something and think, God damn, I'm glad that had reasons for shooting all the things. But What plot usually means nowadays is 5 hours of gameplay, 10 hours of B-movie quality cutscenes, so in Evolution, those bloody UAC scientists, I tell you, they can't leave well enough alone, can they? They can't just stand back and say, you know what, we've been nearly wiped out by the invading armies of hell twice now. Should we just leave this interdimensional gateway technology alone for a bit now? Should we maybe sit down for a second and say, look, instantaneous travel in between vast distances and alternate realities would be awesome, sure. And fuck me would it save on fuel. But maybe the risk of being wiped out of existence by rocket-firing 30-foot tall abominations with mechanical legs is worth those extra flight hours, just for now. Maybe cementing the ability to jump from Mars to Jupiter in under a second flat doesn't quite justify allowing 3/4-ton miscreations with flamethrowers for arms to wander freely about the place. No. I mean, Jesus Christ, the scientists, they're traditionally fairly clever, aren't they? Is that such a far-flung fucking conclusion to arrive upon? Well, apparently so, because the UAC set up shop on the moon of Io with another deployment of Marines intent on popping open another portal, which of course they do. A little one at first to test the water. They've learned at least some tiny, inscrutable degree of caution from our mission report on the events of the last 2 games, which I imagine was a 1-page typewritten paragraph comprised entirely of the gibberish that a PTSD hallucination that turns a typewriter into an attacking lost soul will afford you. I'll just hit pause on that story to show you what this map is all about right here. In the corner of the room we got an invisible teleporter behind the glowing bars. Step on through and it looks like nothing's really happened. What's actually happened here is that you've been teleported through to a slightly gnarlier mirror image of the map we were just in, ever so subtly changed with a ton of new enemies roaming around now. Very cool concept indeed, but what are the larger ramifications here? Is that it for my reality now? Is Earth 1 doomed? I don't think there's a point where you ever really go back to your own dimension either in this map or any other after it, so my goodness, that's bleak. Anyway, back in the starting dimension, the UAC carry on with their usual reckless abandon, popping open gateways left, right and centre until their yearly supply ship turns up, looking less like a supply ship and more like a lesser from Silent Hill has started building a military air force from the kibbly remains of the childhood bullies. Hell had seemingly built itself an enormous battleship to ferry another 2 billion growling buckshot sponges through the rift and unleash them upon the base, overrunning it in mere minutes. But where was Doomguy through all of this? Well, after all, Doomguy has been made the head of the Marines. He's in charge of the entire deployment. Doomguy, well, he was away on a walk. That's the official explanation. Doomguy was off on a stroll. He came back, everybody's dead. You leave him alone for 10 fucking minutes. Let me ask you something, did Doomguy ever strike you as the kind of dude that likes, long walks on the moon? Did he take a fucking picnic with him too? Write a little poetry? Stop at the trading post on the way back for some scented goddamn candles and some bubble bath? Little pamper day for Doomguy, was it? Little treat? I'm assuming a lot here, I know, but you could also say, I'm just following this deeply disappointing new character trait to its logical conclusion. Before this, I was under the impression that Doomguy didn't even really bathe. He just let his enemy's blood and inside filth fuse with his skin cells, a blood tan if you will, which contributed to both his healthy complexion and also his fear-inducing odour, thus explaining why all the monsters seem to know he's around from the second he drops into a map. But in any case, the plot kind of writes itself out to the inevitable from there. Doomguy comes back, sees the giant battleship constructed from bone, flesh and evilly bits floating above the moon base, looks at all the slaughtered bodies of his former colleagues, takes a glance at the familiar demonic hordes kicking their viscera up and down the place, takes another look up at the battleship, back down to the dead bodies, a really long hard look at the monsters, back up to the battleship. That wasn't there before, was it? Give me a second here. Back to the monsters. Does a little counting on his fingers. How many imps were here when I left? I'm pretty sure there was negative numbers. Hang on, I'm gonna need my toes to count backwards. Sits down, Takes off his pants. No, wait, god damn it, my boots. I need to take off my boots to count on my toes. Takes off his shirt. No, motherfucker! Puts his shirt back on. It's back to front now. Takes his boots off finally. One last look up at the ship. Son of a bitch. Today isn't Tuesday. I washed my clothes for nothing. This is all canon, by the way. This is all in the official story. I swear to God. Nasty surprise is waiting for you very early on here, utilizing one of Evolution's favorite dirty tricks, the invisible fuck you tripwire. The second we come down the small stair set right here, there, drops a window the entire length of the room down, which presents you like a meaty, squishy little gift to the army of chain gunners occupying the gallery opposite. So move on over to the right side of the room and hit the switch to close the shutters as soon as you're able to. Now, let me finally tell you a little something about Final Doom's development, and hey there buddy, how you doing? Development and release, because it is steeped in fandom controversy, scene controversy, my goodness. It's the juiciest shit ever, isn't it? Twitter basically runs on it. I buy into it a little myself, I have to admit. For some reason I always find myself more outraged by something that Blizzard have done to their fan base than something that actually matters, some political injustice or human rights breakdown. So, id Software themselves had little to no influence on the actual development of anything in Final Doom besides the supervising hand of John Romero. The game, as we've already said, is made up of two 32 map IWADs, TNT, EVILUTION and the Plutonia experiment. Now let me just clue you in on a little WAD lingo here, lovelies. I know not everybody speaks it. A WAD is the file format used by Doom and any game that uses its engine to store all the map data. And when people are talking about WADs in the singular sense in the custom Doom community, they're usually talking about a single created custom map. If you've ever read Tom Hall's original Doom Bible, you'll know that WAD is actually an acronym that stands for Where's All the Data. Now, branching upwards from your singular WAD, you have P-WADs or patched WADs, which are patched versions of WADs that already exist, usually by player modification, and I-WADs or internal WADs, which hold the data needed for an entire game, like we have here. And the file extensions remain the same whatever the level count. A 9-map WAD is still 9map.wad next to a 32-map Doom2.wad. The tags IWAD and PWAD are really kind of community-based terms only. And just to jumble your brain up with more unnecessary bullshit even more, there is also the Mega WAD, which sounds like the tissue-based ball of semen and shame you accumulate after a prolonged night of wanking yourself blind, but is actually smaller than an IWAD, coming up just short of the full 32 maps needed to fill out an entire IWAD. It gets a little bit more technical than that, but you poor fucking thing, I will stop talking about WADs now. So yeah, let me take you back to the mid-90s. Doom mania in the public eye is starting to die out. The new breed of 3D shooters are on the rise. Quake is in development, Duke Nukem 3D is less than a year away, and the landmark FPS Descent has just been released by Interplay. We're in that magical time where every advance in gaming seemed to start looking obsolete 6 months after its release, and id Software, having already seen the Doom engine repurposed by Raven Software for Heretic at this point, are hard at work on the aforementioned next big thing, Quake. Now, id were largely done with Doom, but behind the scenes the fan communities were pushing the engine's capabilities to its absolute limits, coming up with ever more inventive and wonderful map designs and modifications, far beyond even the technical scope of id's original development team. By the end of 1994, Justin Fisher had completed the Aliens TC, or Total Conversion, a stunning mod that took the original Doom away from the moons of Mars and into a 12-map episode that pitted the player against the Xenomorphs from the Alien franchise. Now for the time it was absolutely incredible work with a lot of very clever workarounds. Fisher recolored a ton of the wall textures from the hellish section of Doom green to effectively show off the Xenomorph nest wall slime, and he even managed to swap out the chainsaw with a power loader from the second movie. Now, Final Doom wasn't strictly the first time that id had decided to harness this raw ability. Half a year before Final Doom came out, the master levels for Doom 2 was released, a collection of 20 maps from 6 different independent community designers making up the main release, plus like nearly 2,000 other maps from, shall we say, less notable Doom enthusiasts as a bonus. It was a rough, disjointed grab bag with no real cohesion or consistent quality, and it represented more of a middle finger to the many unlicensed shovelware compilations of garbage maps that were taking up shop floor space ever since the original Doom came out. But it was an important step taken on the road to Final Doom, bridging the gap between developer and fandom in an unprecedented way. And if you're wondering why we've jumped ahead on Doomsday a bit and not touched master levels before heading into Final Doom, well, I think I've told you this before, so I'll summarise as quickly as I can. It's because a lot of the maps in master levels are ripped from the middle of their author's larger IWADs or megawads. For example, Dr. Sleep's Divine Comedy themed maps in the game are missing their 2 opening stages, Dante's Gate and Crossing Acheron. Some of Cranium's maps tie into his independent Cabal series, and believe me, if we're going to play them, they're well worth going through in their original context. Plus, I just hate covering anything out of order, you know? Bugs the fuck out of me. Enter Team TNT. There, you wondered where the TNT and TNT Evolution came from. You have your answer. Go forth, die happy. And also enter the controversy. Evolution had originally been developed by Team TNT as a standalone IWAD to be released free of charge, as was standard practice in the community at the time. But mere days before it was due to appear, id Software swooped in and bought the project, leading to a shitstorm of outrage and finger pointing that even today hasn't disappeared completely. Now, to their credit, TNT worked their socks off to produce another full IWAD to take its place, Icarus Alien Vanguard, which showed up free of charge the following year, but the hatred and stigma that haunted the team over their alleged selling out of their work haunted them to their eventual dissolution. The Plutonia experiment, on the other hand, suffered no such ill will, having been put together under contract by Dario and Milo Casari, 2 brothers who contributed maps to Evolution, but also sent a separate 8-level demo of their own independent work to id's staff mapper, American McGee. McGee was impressed enough to greenlight the brothers' 32 map vision, an arguably even more viciously difficult effort than Evolution, and as ambitious as map design got at the time. The 4 maps they put together for Evolution had to be significantly trimmed down before release for being too big to properly run on most standard PCs of the day. Now, you've heard me rant about awful Doom ports to consoles before. I swear to God I'm going to do a whole episode of Doomsday on it properly sometime. And, you know, a lot of it is just me making fun. You know, I understand that obviously, given the severe technical limitations of the home consoles of the day, a lot of them did the best they could with what they had. You've also heard me singing the praises of the PlayStation Doom port, which managed to cover up a lot of its shortcomings by adding new stages and even a whole new enemy type, as well as an amazing new soundtrack that changes the mood of the game completely. So, in that spirit, I'm not going to roast the living shit out of Final Doom on PlayStation. It was incredibly well reviewed when it came out, but it is arguably more of a butcher's job than any other port in the franchise that came out before it. It is just bizarre to call it Final Doom at all for no other reason than only half of it has anything to do with Final Doom. And the box tells you that the game's got 30 plus maps in it. 30 plus, so you think, alright, fine, we're already down by an entire IWAD's worth of stages from the PC release, but at least there's a full game in there somewhere. Then you start the game and wow, the first level isn't from either Evolution or the Plutonia experiment. It's from the master levels for Doom 2. How very strange. I could swear I threw down cash on the store counter for Final fucking Doom. Imagine, if you will, your confusion slowly growing as you grind through map after map, no Final Doom in sight, until you get halfway through the damn game, and there, level 14, there's your first Evolution map, there's system control. So now you get 11 stages from Evolution, and a mere 6 from the Plutonia experiment, and if you've been doing incredibly quick maths in your head there, you'll notice that adds up to 30. Not 30 plus, 30. Naughty naughty! Now, To their credit, id Software did clue the player in on the inclusion of the master levels. They just didn't do it on the back of the box. No, they chose to do it on the back of the manual. The manual! Because that's traditionally a thing you're allowed to look at when you're buying a game new from the fucking shops, isn't it? You know what, we'll elaborate later. I've got one more arch vial to turn into paste here and then we're bang out of time. Kabla! What do you mean overkill? I aimed away from his face. He can have an open coffin now. Custom intermission screens, the bread and butter of the independent IWAD. I'll do a dramatic reading and then love you and leave you until next time. You fought your way out of the infested experimental labs. It seems that UAC has once again gulped it down. With their high turnover, it must be hard for poor old UAC to buy any corporate health insurance nowadays. Ahead lies the military complex, now swarming with diseased horrors hot to get their teeth into you. With luck, the complex still has some warlike ordnance laying around. That and so much more, Crusaders. We've had a relatively easy time of things so far, but Final Doom truly begins to bare its teeth next time here on Doomsday, when we storm said military complex. All going to plan. I'll see you for that party in a couple of weeks. Because we all know everything goes to plan on this channel, don't we? Without fail.